Seattle, in the nascent days of January 1974, was a city of rain-kissed evergreens and a vibrant, youthful energy that pulsed through its university campuses. But beneath this veneer of Pacific Northwest charm, a chilling dread began to unfurl, like a cold mist creeping in from Puget Sound. It started subtly, whispers circulating through dormitories and coffee shops, evolving from vague rumors into a palpable fear that settled deep in the bones of its residents. Young women, primarily college students, identifiable by their long hair, often parted down the middle, became targets. What began as disturbing reports of brazen robberies and unsettling assaults quickly escalated into something far more sinister: disappearances, then the brutal discovery of their remains, painting a horrifying tableau across the verdant landscape of Washington state. The perpetrator was a phantom, operating with a chilling efficiency that defied detection. His hunting ground was the night, his method a cruel routine. He would approach under the cloak of darkness, often striking his unsuspecting victims with a club, plunging them into unconsciousness before vanishing with them. Each crime scene was meticulously scrubbed clean, a testament to his perverse attention to detail. No fingerprints, no stray fibers, no witnesses who could offer more than a fleeting glimpse of a masked figure. The police, a bewildered assembly of seasoned detectives and eager rookies, found themselves facing an invisible enemy. The cases accumulated, each new victim adding another layer to the mounting terror, another question mark to an increasingly impossible puzzle. The city, once characterized by its open, trusting atmosphere, began to draw inward, its residents locking doors, glancing nervously over shoulders, and avoiding dark, solitary paths. The oppressive weight of this unknown menace grew heavier with each passing week, but it reached a fever pitch one night in June of 1974. Joran Hawkins, a bright, promising university student, simply vanished on her way home. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance were eerily similar to the others, yet one detail stood out, sharpening the blurry edges of the escalating crisis. Witnesses near the scene reported seeing a man who was conspicuously encumbered, navigating with crutches and sporting a leg cast, a briefcase clutched in his free hand. He was an anomaly in the night, a figure that would, in retrospect, become a crucial, unsettling thread in the tapestry of terror. Joran's family, journalists themselves, refused to let her disappearance be just another statistic. They harnessed their professional skills and their personal anguish, launching an impassioned public appeal that amplified the story beyond the usual headlines. Her face, youthful and hopeful, stared out from newspapers and television screens, transforming the abstract fear into a concrete, heartbreaking reality for thousands. The media attention was relentless, shining an uncomfortable spotlight on the police's fruitless efforts and escalating the public's demand for answers. Under this intense scrutiny, investigators began to pore over every detail of every unsolved case, searching for any commonality, any glimmer of insight. And slowly, painstakingly, patterns began to emerge from the chaos. It was as if the pieces of a grotesque jigsaw puzzle were finally starting to align, albeit with terrifying implications. Many of the disappearances, they noticed, had occurred near active construction sites, places of transient activity where noise and movement could provide cover for nefarious deeds. Even more unsettling was the temporal coincidence. A significant number of the attacks coincided with university exam periods, when students, often stressed and preoccupied, might be walking alone late at night, traversing poorly lit areas between libraries and dorms. But the most striking and chilling common denominator began to surface in the composite sketches and witness statements. Again and again, descriptions filtered back to the task force, painting a remarkably consistent picture. Multiple witnesses from various locations, often separated by miles and weeks, reported seeing a man driving a distinctive vehicle, a Volkswagen Beetle. And in an unnerving echo of Jordan Hawkins' case, many of these witnesses also mentioned a man with a leg cast. This wasn't just a series of isolated crimes. The sheer weight of these parallel details pointed to something far more horrifying. The police, with a growing sense of dread and grim determination, were forced to accept the undeniable conclusion. Seattle was not being preyed upon by multiple criminals, but by a single, elusive, and increasingly brazen individual. A lone monster, meticulously planning his atrocities, lurking in the shadows, his presence a dark stain on the soul of the city, and his victims chosen with a terrifying, unknown purpose. The realization sent a cold shiver down the spines of everyone involved. They were hunting not just a criminal, but a true enigma, a ghost who left nothing but despair in his wake. 1 month later, the summer sun shone deceptively bright on July 14, 1974, at Lake Sammamish State Park. A charming, handsome man, his arm in a sling, dressed in crisp white tennis attire, approached 5 young women. He introduced himself simply as Ted, asking for their help to move a sailboat. It was a perfectly crafted facade, a predator's calculated trap. One young woman, sensing an unease she couldn't quite articulate, wisely walked away and escaped. But for 2 other girls that very day, their lives ended in that idyllic park. Based on the chilling accounts of the survivors and other witnesses, law enforcement swiftly created a composite sketch of Ted, plastering it across the city. Hundreds of calls flooded the police station, but one name kept surfacing repeatedly: Ted Bundy. He was a 28-year-old law student, remarkably bright, with an impeccable academic record and no prior criminal history. Yet, when witnesses were asked to identify him, only one person recognized him with any certainty. Without sufficient corroborating evidence, police had no choice but to release him. The monster was free to hunt again. Months later, in November 1974, the terror had seemingly migrated eastward to Salt Lake City, Utah. A brave young woman named Carol Durant burst into a police station, recounting a harrowing, albeit failed, kidnapping attempt. She described the man impersonating a police officer, luring her into his car, but her quick thinking and instinct allowed her to jump out and escape. Based on Carol's vivid description, Ted Bundy once again found himself squarely in the crosshairs of the police investigation. Around the same time, Elizabeth Cloper, Ted's own girlfriend, approached authorities with a growing, horrifying suspicion. She had discovered a chilling collection of items in Ted's car: a crowbar, handcuffs, rope, objects that sent a shiver down her spine when connected to the news of disappearances. While still lacking direct, irrefutable proof, the net was tightening. The breakthrough came when police located the Volkswagen Beetle Ted had recently sold. Inside, forensic examination revealed a horrifying truth: hairs belonging to 3 of the missing victims. This critical evidence, combined with the chilling similarities across cases in Washington, Utah, Colorado, and other states, finally provided the conclusive link. In August 1975, Ted Bundy was arrested. The legal proceedings were as dramatic and unconventional as Bundy himself. Granted the unusual privilege of representing himself in court, Ted shamelessly exploited this opportunity, using his charismatic charm and keen intellect to manipulate the system. He escaped not once but twice in audacious bids for freedom. Each time, however, he was recaptured, a testament to his desperation and the relentless pursuit of justice. Even while confined, Bundy remained a master of escape, meticulously planning his next move. At one point, he drastically lost 16 kilograms, a grim effort to contort his body through a ventilation shaft, only to be thwarted again. Despite his captivating looks and undeniable intelligence, Ted Bundy harbored a deeply fractured psyche, rooted in a troubled past. Born out of wedlock, his true parentage was concealed by his family, a secret that cast a long shadow over his identity. He grew up under the oppressive influence of a violent grandfather, and disturbing behaviors manifested early: voyeurism, and obsession with dark magazines. Yet it was the psychological shock of being rejected by his former girlfriend, Stephanie Brooks, due to his perceived social standing that proved to be a pivotal turning point. This rejection ignited a burning desire for revenge, fueling his ambition to infiltrate elite circles and ultimately transforming him into a ruthless serial killer. In the final climactic trials in Florida, Ted Bundy was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. The case sent shockwaves across America, but ironically, despite the monstrous nature of his crimes, Bundy garnered a bizarre, almost fanatical admiration from a segment of women who were blindly drawn to his deceptive charm and polished exterior. On the eve of his execution, Ted Bundy finally confessed to his heinous crimes, though he meticulously avoided delving into the gruesome details. He admitted to murdering at least 30 individuals across multiple states, leaving behind a trail of unspeakable grief. His chilling story has since been immortalized in numerous films and documentaries, serving as a grim reminder of a serial killer both intelligent and charismatic, yet possessed by a profoundly twisted soul. On January 24, 1989, 42-year-old Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair at Florida State Prison. His death brought a macabre sense of exhilaration to hundreds of people gathered outside the prison gates, but it also left an enduring legacy of pain for the victims' families and those who had once, tragically, loved him. In the end, truth finally triumphed over the captivating facade. Bundy's capture in August 1975 marked the beginning of a new, equally dramatic chapter in his horrifying saga. As the legal gears began to grind, Ted Bundy, with characteristic audacity, chose to represent himself during the trial. This decision, seemingly a testament to his intellect, quickly proved to be a calculated gamble, a means to control the narrative, manipulate the proceedings, and ultimately to seek an opportunity for escape. And escape he did, not once but twice, cementing his image as a master manipulator even from behind bars. The first audacious escape occurred in June 1977. While assisting with research at the Aspen Courthouse Library, Bundy, unchained and under minimal supervision, simply jumped out of a second-story window. He fled into the rugged Colorado wilderness, sparking a massive manhunt that gripped the nation. For 6 days, he roamed free, a ghost in the mountains, before being apprehended by local police. But his taste for freedom was not satiated. Just 6 months later, in December 1977, he executed an even more elaborate escape plan from the Garfield County Jail. He had meticulously sawed a hole in his cell ceiling, climbed through the ventilation system, and dropped into the apartment of the chief jailer, who was away for Christmas. Scaling a wall, he was out, melting into the night. This second escape, born of sheer will and desperate planning, showcased not just his cunning, but a relentless drive that chilled investigators to the bone. He even reportedly lost 35 pounds to squeeze through a narrow vent, a stark testament to his singular focus on regaining his freedom. While these dramatic escapes unfolded, the specter of Bundy's past began to loom large, offering a chilling glimpse into the twisted psyche that had spawned such heinous acts. Born out of wedlock, his true parentage was deliberately concealed from him for years, raised by his grandparents with his mother pretending to be his older sister. This fundamental deception, coupled with the domineering and violent temperament of his grandfather, likely created a profoundly unstable foundation. From an early age, disturbing behaviors emerged, an unsettling fascination with peering into windows, collecting dark and forbidden magazines, a chilling detachment that belied his later charming facade. He was a puzzle, a young man who outwardly excelled, even attending law school, but harboring a hidden darkness. However, a critical turning point, often cited by psychologists and biographers, was his tumultuous relationship with Stephanie Brooks, an affluent, sophisticated woman who rejected him primarily due to his perceived lack of social status and financial prospects. This rejection, a searing blow to his fragile ego and burgeoning sense of entitlement, seemed to ignite a deep-seated desire for vengeance against the world, and particularly against women who represented the social standing he craved but felt denied. He became obsessed with climbing the social ladder, with proving his worth. But beneath this ambition, the desire to exact revenge festered, transforming into a monstrous need to exert absolute control, to destroy what he could not possess. This psychological scar, combined with his inherent psychopathy, set him on an irreversible path towards becoming one of America's most prolific and terrifying serial killers. After his second escape, Bundy made his way to Florida, where his reign of terror continued with unprecedented brutality. His capture there in February 1978 led to what would be his final, most significant trial. In a highly publicized courtroom drama, Ted Bundy was formally charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder, including the brutal slayings at the Chi Omega sorority house and the abduction and murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. The evidence, though circumstantial in some cases, was overwhelming. Eyewitness testimony, dental impressions matching his bite marks on victims, and the grim discovery of human remains. Throughout the proceedings, Bundy maintained his composure, often representing himself, exuding an eerie calm that baffled onlookers. Yet, the jury saw through his charismatic facade. In a verdict that reverberated across the nation, Ted Bundy was found guilty and sentenced to death. The chilling paradox of Bundy's story was the inexplicable adoration he received from a segment of the female population, often referred to as Bundy groupies. Despite the overwhelming evidence of his monstrous crimes, these women were captivated by his handsome features, his intellect, and his perceived vulnerability, blindly clinging to the illusion of the charming law student rather than the vicious killer. It was a bizarre testament to his manipulative power, even from a death row cell. As the date of his execution loomed, the pressure mounted. On the eve of his execution, in a series of televised interviews and conversations with authorities, Ted Bundy finally confessed to his horrific crimes. He admitted to killing at least 30 women across multiple states, offering a glimpse into the vastness of his depravity, though he largely withheld the gruesome details, perhaps as a final act of control. His confessions confirmed the suspicions of law enforcement agencies across the country, linking together a terrifying string of unsolved murders that had haunted communities for years. His story, a chilling narrative of charm masking unimaginable evil, has since been immortalized in numerous books, documentaries, and films, serving as a grim reminder of the intelligent, handsome serial killer with a fundamentally twisted soul. On January 24, 1989, at the age of 42, Ted Bundy was led to the electric chair at Florida State Prison. Outside the prison walls, hundreds of people gathered, not in mourning, but in celebration, cheering as the lights flickered, signaling the ultimate price paid for his atrocities. For many, his death brought a sense of vindication, a final, long-awaited closure to years of fear and grief. Yet, for the families of his countless victims, and for those who had once believed in the man behind the monster, the pain of his actions lingered, an indelible scar. In the end, the captivating facade crumbled, and the horrifying truth of Ted Bundy's depravity finally triumphed over his carefully constructed image of charm and intellect.